Meeting of the Mountain View Town Council to order on April 6, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. Will you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Mitchum?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Algeen?
Here.
Councilmember Lasher?
Here.
Councilmember Debner?
Here.
Councilmember Randolph?
Here.
Councilmember Davis?
Here.
Councilmember Bailey? You have a quorum.
Thank you. Per our rules, section 5, subsection 4, and agenda item number 4, do any council members wish to declare a conflict of interest relating to any agenda items tonight? Councilmember Debner.
I have a conflict of interest for agenda item 12 for my complaint specifically.
Okay, thank you. I also have a conflict of interest for agenda item 12, and at that point, I will recuse myself. Any other conflicts of interest? Moving on then, does anyone wish to make a motion to amend the agenda as we posted it? Then we will consider the agenda approved and move forward to our next item. We have our second workshop on the Mountain View Code and Character Project tonight, and our town attorney is going to take it away from here.
Excellent. Okay, so we are jumping into our second work session on the permitted uses. I'm not going to cover all the background that I did last time. I'm hoping that's still fresh for all of you, but if you have questions along the way, just let me know. I don't want to rush you through this process, but this is our last work session for the permitted uses. It gives you about 70 seconds per use if we can accomplish it all today in 50 minutes. So just keeping that benchmark in mind, how I propose to go about this is to give you a summary of each use, the permission, and then summarize the use-specific standards. I'm going to be relying just on objections from council if you want to slow things down, ask questions, stop, make changes. Otherwise, we're going to keep going through sort of systematically. And I'm sharing the screen behind me so you can follow along as we go away.
I have a question before you get started.
Yeah.
I've had residents ask me what the specific standards for single-family dwellings are. Some of these you have numbers, but on this one you don't have anything.
Yeah, great.
Talking about the height.
Great question. Actually, let's go back up to the table of contents. So today we are here, we're in this Article 3, we're talking about permitted uses, and you're right to say that for some uses, there's specific standards above the general standards. In other words, for some really particular uses, we might want to put on some additional standards that help mitigate perceived impacts that's unique to that use. If that's the case, then we put them in this article, but if they're general dimensional and development standards, you're going to see them here in Article 4. And that's when we get through all of those dimensional standards like height and setback, minimum lot size, design, all of that kind of stuff. That will come starting at the next work session.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and with that, I want to talk about one change from last time before we dive into the new material, and that is related to duplex dwellings. So if you remember last time, we had a 3-3 split on how to regulate duplexes, specifically on whether they'd be permitted in the R1 district. I do want to clarify that I did look at your current zoning code. They are permitted by right today. So just one thing to keep in mind. I added use-specific standards here that I'll go through really quickly, similar to those we added for triplex and multifamily dwellings, based on some of the council's sentiment of what we really care about is the way it sort of looks from the street. And if it looked a lot more like a single-family dwelling, we might have less hesitation. And so with that, these use-specific standards, and again, I'm not going to go through each one, I'm going to summarize them, are oriented towards designing the duplex dwelling so that it must look and feel like a single-family detached dwelling, similar to the architectural style on that block today. So again, that's sort of the summary of those standards. I won't be going through each one unless requested otherwise. With that in mind, are there any objections to allowing duplex dwellings with those use-specific standards as use by right in the R1 and MXN districts? All right, hearing none, we're going to move on where we left off last time. We're going to move on to public, institutional, and civic uses. I'm going to do the same thing here. I think some of these are a little bit less controversial, but again, if you have any issues, just raise an objection, we'll talk through them. So the first one here is art gallery, museum, and library. It's proposed as a conditional use in the MXN district and a use by right in the MXC district. Great. And the next one is community center, proposed as a use by right in the MXN. Next, we have daycare facilities, which is proposed as a conditional use in the MXN district. Those use-specific standards require two things. It requires separation requirements between daycare facilities. In other words, you cannot have two co-located right next to each other on the same block. And it also requires that they be regulated in conformance with the licensing requirements in state law. They are regulated by state law.
Could we change that definition to care center as opposed to daycare?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it could be elderly or
Correct.
Children.
Yeah, that's a good. Any objections to that change? Yeah, thank you. It's a good suggestion. Perfect, okay. Moving on, we're at medical facility, which is proposed as a use by right in the MXC district. All right, parks and open space, use by right in the R1 and MXN district.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go back.
Oh, yeah.
We said medical facility is a use by right in the commercial area?
Correct.
Are we sure that we want to have that be a use by right? Is everybody following?
Yeah, it definitely won't be a high sales tax generating use to that point. So you're talking like dentist's office. Why can't I think of any other?
Is it eyeglasses?
Yeah, those kind of things.
Which is exactly what we have right now, and we're sort of trying to create more revenue generating businesses. So if we make it possible for them to build that just without any exception, I feel like it's likely we'll get more of that.
It's very possible. So would you propose that for medical facilities it not be used by right, but instead conditional use in that district?
I would
Or
propose that it
not be permitted.
allowed. Yeah,
Okay.
and I think it's been one of the problems that's created where we created the problem that we're in right now, where it's just a location where people have been able to, put that business and then we don't get very much sales tax for it. And I think we should try, if this is the goal,
Right.
we should try to have businesses that generate sales tax and create financial sustainability for the town.
Right, that makes sense. So any objection to removing medical facility altogether as a permitted use? In other words, it would be prohibited throughout the town. All current medical facilities would still be permitted to carry on as a legal non-conforming use. They just couldn't expand. Any objection to that? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and accept it and we'll move on. All right, and we left off at place of worship. So this is proposed as just a use by right in MXN. I would also note that this would also create it would create a nonconformity in your town. So what that means is that if you're currently a place of worship in the town in a different district, then you can still continue to operate. You're totally legal to continue to operate. You can't expand.
Does that pertain to this place of worship here?
So any objections there? Okay. Oh, okay.
And Councilmember Davis, if you would want to weigh in, please don't hesitate to unmute yourself and speak up.
Yes, please. Okay, so we're moving on to school. This would be a conditional use in MXN. Again, this would make any existing uses in the R1 district related to schools non-conforming. Any objection there? Okay. All right, we're moving on to commercial uses. So we're starting with adult entertainment. As I mentioned in the last work session, this is a First Amendment right. You have to allow it to some degree. I put use-specific standards in there, which generally require a lot of distance requirements. They require distance from each other. They also require distance from certain uses like schools. Functionally, it would make it very, very difficult to permit this type of use in the town, but you must still permit it to some degree. So this is how you're sort of able to do so.
My question is on page 10, or on page 6, where it has the entertainment, adult entertainment needs to be at least 1,000 feet from any residential district boundary, place of worship, or school. That's the whole town. So we really couldn't offer that as an option. Is that correct?
I would say that it's an option, and you can still try to exercise that right. You would have to get a variance to be able to permit it if you're wanting to get in within or with less than 1,000 feet. Does that make sense? Okay. Any objections there? Okay. So we're going to move on to automotive center and services. So I kept this in here because it's a very prevalent use that you have today, but my recommendation was to not permit it anywhere. So that would make it, again, a non-conforming use for any of those that exist today. Any objections there?
What
Yep.
page are you on in our packet?
7.
Page 3.
I'm actually looking at my version, which is hyperlinked.
Yeah.
So I'm at the commercial uses. So if you scroll up a bit, right here.
Okay, so this is page
Also
3
se-
of our
yeah.
packet,
Oh, sorry,
everybody.
3. Oh, but if you follow this, okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Right,
7
it's
there.
page
But
7 of
Right,
the,
right, right.
of the document, but page 3 of the PDF.
Sorry, it's confusing, and I know I'm moving quick. Okay, any objections there? So again, that would make those existing vehicle uses non-conforming. Okay, there. Okay. Do you have something on that one? Okay.
I do have something about the residential, though, and I know we've moved on to commercial, but I wasn't realizing that we were
Oh yeah.
done with the residential areas.
Yeah. Let's go back up there now. What do you have on residential?
So I shared a document from Metro Mayor's Caucus with the council and CCGU, and it had some definitions of additional types of middle housing, that
Yeah.
missing middle housing. One of which was twin homes. There was also triplex. There was cottages and bungalows, or like the courtyard
Yep.
homes. And I just wonder if council is interested in any of those in either of the residential zones.
And let me sort of explain a little bit about why I didn't include those uses. Partly because they're included within your list here. When I regulate residential uses, especially in smaller towns, going from low density to high density, so 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 unit, multifamily is 4 and up. So whatever you can do on a lot, you can arrange it however you want, as long as it aligns with our subdivision requirements, means it can be attached, detached, cottage. I'm getting a bit of an echo. Is that on me?
Doc.
Okay.
That was Doc. Doc, can you mute yourself? I'm sorry, Councilmember Davis. Thank you.
Another thing to keep in mind with some of those forms of residential uses like clustered and cottage, you need a lot of acreage. So if we would permit that in town, in some ways it would incentivize some pretty big demos of your old existing infrastructure to be able to consolidate a lot of those lots. So does that somewhat answer the different approaches?
I know that there was one parcel in town, the one that the town purchased, which is it's basically 2 buildable lots on Benton, where a developer was interested in building tiny homes. And the community, when people talked about that concept, the community was generally supportive because it was a good way to get affordable housing into the town and bring some of the Prop 123 money into the town for people.
Right.
And so I don't know where council sits on that issue, but I don't want to let it pass without giving them an opportunity to talk about it.
So in that case, they would have to rezone. They'd have to go in the MXN district to get that kind of density. So that would be their first step, rezoning into MXN. And then the second question would be how many units could they actually put in per lot? If it's more than 3 per lot, then they've got to get a conditional use permit as well for each one of those lots. So it's a bit of extra work to get there.
Right.
I think the
And
solution.
that's how we want to set it up?
Yeah,
Or
that's the question.
Really, that's the question for council. And additionally, like is this the time to talk about ADUs and being friendly to ADUs?
We'll get there today,
Okay.
hopefully. And so I guess, yeah, let me take a step back. Residential uses, I know this is important. We took a lot of time here last session. Are there any changes, objections to how it's listed today? or questions? And when we talk about missing middle, it's basically everything besides a detached single-family dwelling. Missing middle basically just means, is it going to be affordable to a middle income range? Okay, so hearing none, we can always go back. Again, we're going to get a second bite at the whole apple during the consolidated process. If not, we left off at bar, brewery, or distillery proposed as a use by right in the MXC district, which is under the commercial uses category, and it's going to be in alphabetical, a little bit up. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So how does so I guess one concern with bar, brewery, distillery category would be late night noise. How does our existing rules about noise fit into this? And I'm wondering if we need to have a use-specific standard.
Yeah,
for
that's
that
a great
category.
point. We definitely can do that, particularly if it's adjacent to residential uses, which in this case it probably will be. So generally how it would work right now is just your general noise ordinance would apply. And so if there's sort of loud parties, loud music during your quiet hours, then they'd get a citation and be brought into municipal court. When do your quiet hours start? I can't remember. 10? 10. So that's probably pretty typical for these types of uses. But if you wanted to go more restrictive, this would be the place.
But we could have that entire conversation about commercial establishments, like, rather than stopping it at the building time, like at the point when they're getting a permit to build or to come in and develop. That conversation could happen like at the table after they're already established. Then we say, well, we're experiencing some problems. Let's have a community meeting about the noise and the impact of this and what do we want to do at that point. It doesn't necessarily have to be in our building.
Yeah, you could change your
land
general
use code.
regulations related to noise if it's really noise you're worried about. But if it's other issues, like particularly smell, which you do get with distilleries and breweries, then that's going to be really hard to regulate, period, but certainly after the fact, once they've established.
So it would be advantageous for us to establish now?
If you are going to regulate smell in particular, yes, because you don't have any regulations generally that would apply to that.
Okay.
How would you regulate a smell?
Yeah, it's really difficult to do. You basically have to require enclosures. And so you'll see this actually in certain breweries and distilleries, like in Denver, that are next to residential homes, where they have them completely enclosed within the building. So it's not even just in the big building, it's enclosed within the building,
And that's something we'd add now.
if you were going to.
I think we should add it because I think that that would be really unfair to people.
Okay, any objections to adding smell use specific standards for this
No.
use?
Is it likely to
Okay.
make development less
Yes, because it's more expensive.
inviting?
Yep. So
Maybe we should learn more about it.
Okay. What I can do is propose some, and then you'll see it in the next draft.
How do people feel about that?
I personally feel that we should be mindful of the residents that we're impacting. So, I mean, we could certainly have a conversation, but I agree with Councilmember Lasher, sorry, excuse me.
You're good. Everyone says it wrong. We're good.
Took me like 2 years.
Yeah.
I also agree with,
So let's just
Councilmember.
move it forward then. I think
Yeah.
Okay.
we've got enough support for it.
All right, great. Great question. So moving on to business or personal service, this is permitted as a use by right in the MXN and MXC district. Any objections there? Okay, so moving on to fast food restaurant, again, similar to automotive uses, I included it here just because it would create a nonconformity and I wanted to make sure you made that decision. Do you want to prohibit essentially new fast food restaurants in the town?
Can I ask a question? Do they bring a lot of like revenue in?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so I think I would like to see it if it's gonna, like on Sheridan, obviously not like in town, but like on Sheridan, I think, can you do that where you like
Yeah.
add something where it's like only allowed on like Sheridan?
Yep.
Okay.
So I guess let's ask that question. Are we comfortable then allowing fast food restaurants, which we'd allow in the MXC district then? That's where your Sheridan Boulevard zoning is going to be just on that corridor.
And not on West 44th.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And why not on West 44th?
Totally up to council.
No, I'm just asking a question. No, I'm sorry, not directing to you, but to council. Why not on 44th?
Are you asking me?
Everyone at the table.
I would say not on 44th, just because that's where people are, like, how would we get cars and people, they'd be going more into our town. Where it's like, I feel like if it's on Sheridan, then people are just going, turning in like Arby's, it's not really affecting our neighbors. Where people are just going in right off of Sheridan and then probably going back out. Where I feel like if it's on 44th, then people might be, instead of going back on 44th to leave, driving like down through our town.
So you mean like, I'm picturing like across the street where they have drive-throughs. So,
That's going to be my next question.
okay.
But let's
Fast
stick with
food,
this one
drive-through,
first. Yeah.
That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine doing it on 44th. I was just trying to be.
Because what we've been talking about is like a pedestrian-friendly, walkable area where you can walk down and shop. For me, I would envision like smaller restaurants and shops rather than a big fast food. On 44th especially. I like the idea on Sheridan, but
Right.
Councilmember Dadmer, you look like you were going to talk.
Yeah, I guess I think on Sheridan would make more sense. I mean, generally, I'd be fine having our existing fast food be non-conforming. And, thinking about smell, like fast food restaurants also like produce a smell as well. So I guess I'm leaning towards leaving it as it's proposed.
Gotcha. I think we're going to straw poll it, potentially. So let's straw poll with the way it is now, which is not permitting any new fast food restaurants. If you are in favor of that, you can just say yes.
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 Are we, I'm sorry, please clarify. Are we talking about permitting fast food on Sheridan?
No, that would be my next question. This
okay.
is sort of as drafted now, no more fast food restaurants. So I think I've
Okay.
got 2 yeses. Doc, or Councilmember Randolph? Davis, sorry.
You're muted, Councilmember Davis. Can you give us a thumbs up if you're in favor of, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 3 there, so we might have another tie here. Okay, so if you can give me a yes if you're in favor of allowing fast food restaurants in the MXC district, but only on Sheridan Boulevard.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all
I would
right.
go that way. Let's go there.
Okay. So we'll do that. Again, you get another bite at the apple. So if it's really driving you crazy, bring it back up to consolidated and see if your council members have changed.
And that would be, I'm sorry to interrupt, that would be like a Starbucks, right?
Yeah, like Starbucks, McDonald's,
Okay.
those kind of uses.
People
So the
like
next
Starbucks.
question would be, do you want to allow drive-through facilities in those fast food restaurants? It's typical that you do. It's a huge economic boon for them if you do.
Yes.
I'd say
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great.
Thank you, Councilmember Davis.
Thank you for checking that. All right, so we're moving on to hotel. So this would be allowed in the MXC district as a use by right with the use-specific standard, which generally requires that the ground floor be some sort of retail use, or part of the ground floor be some sort of retail use to bolster your retail tax generation, but also to make it feel a lot more walkable. Any objections there?
I really don't want to see a hotel in Mountain View.
Neither do I.
Okay, so we've got some objections then. So I'm hearing 2 objections to it. Any other objections?
I guess I have one concern about height, like,
Which we'll get there in the next.
I guess that'd be next time, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and parking.
We'll get there as well. But just the use itself, I'm hearing 2 no's. Any other objections?
Even though we just asked the voters to pass a lodging tax,
Are bed and breakfasts, are they included in that hotel definition? don't think so.
No, typically not. We can allow bed and breakfast separately. I didn't hear, but we can. You're interested in that?
Yeah, I would be. It's
Okay.
a related topic.
I think what Councilmember Bailey and I had talked about in the past was a boutique hotel, like the
Right.
kind that they have on Tennyson, where it's not like a Marriott. And
And if
a
that's
lot of times it would look very much like just a building.
Yeah, and so if that's, well, let me ask you this. Would the council members who objected be more comfortable if it was a boutique hotel? And the way you do that, because you can't regulate based on name brand, you have to regulate based off the size of the rooms and the number of rooms to generally try to incentivize a boutique hotel coming in. That's what we did in Morrison. We got them. But there was nothing to stop like a DoubleTree coming in and doing just a really small version of what they typically do.
Right.
It's just very rare because they
It's still-
typically plug and play their models.
But it's still more like acceptable to our residents
Right.
if it's a smaller kind of boutique situation.
I-
And it's a huge revenue generator for our town.
I just simply can't see Mountain View as a destination for someone who want to stay in a hotel here. I
But
just
that's a
can't see
separate
that.
question. That's a separate question. I actually met with some land advisors over the weekend, and they were the ones who proposed it to me. So whether or not it's something that the developers want to do is on their side. What we're saying is it something that we would allow?
But haven't we been talking about a hotel on Benton for quite some time?
This is one of the reasons why we're redoing the zoning, so that we could have that conversation. It's been very pie in the sky thinking until.
So again, I'm going to throw it back to the two council members who objected. Would it make a difference for you if we put in standards related to the size of the hotel to try to incentivize a more boutique type development?
And would this, are we picturing on 44th? Are we picturing on Sheridan? Are we picturing that Benton property? I mean, I'm trying to wrap my mind around that.
So here would only be in the MXC as it's currently zoned, which would be primarily just your main corridors, 44th and Sheridan.
So we'd be looking at a boutique hotel on 44th or Sheridan.
You'd at least be looking at permitting it. Whether the market
Right.
says it's possible is a different question. Still no. Okay. Still no. Okay.
Councilmember Davis?
No.
Saying no.
No. Okay. So that's 3 no there. So it looks like we do remove this use altogether. And again,
Excuse me.
we can come back to this at the consolidated if there's a change of opinions. For now, we're going to keep rolling. Okay, so now we're at indoor entertainment or recreation. This is permitted as a use by right in the MXC district. Any concerns there? All right. Moving on to medical or recreational marijuana dispensary, listed as it is today as a conditional use in your MXC district. I just have a note to myself here. I'll be adding our licensing requirements, but I didn't want to add them now because we're changing that per the ordinance that we'll talk about later. All right, no objections there. Nursery or garden supply center as a use by right in the MXC.
Does that include a, like a Home Depot, not a Home Depot, but like a,
Yeah, it'd be like a garden
Hardware
center, exactly.
okay,
So hardware store would actually be under retail, small or large.
okay.
If it's just hardware. If it's primary, like flowers and plants and those types of goods, then it'd be under this use.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would be in support of, for the nursery or garden store supply, having it in the MXN conditional use as well.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Any objections there?
No, that's a good suggestion.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So office as a use by right in the MXC district, a use specific standard here requiring part of the ground floor to be retail uses. Any objection there? All right. So we break up retail into small and large. Small is going to be like more boutique-ish. Large is going to be big box. So retail large is really the only way you're going to get a grocery store for the most part. Okay, so we can do retail small first, listed as conditional in the MXN and a use by right in the MXC. Any objections there? All right, and then retail large, conditional use in your MXC district.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for the retail small, would that include like artisan maker spaces? Like,
Yeah, like multiple vendors within.
yeah,
Yeah, you could do that.
is that something that would be needed to be specified in the definition to like kind of encourage that sort of?
We certainly could, but it would be allowed now within the definition. So the definition really allows any assortment of retail uses so long as the total gross square footage is under 4,000 square feet for small and then over 4,000 for large. Great question.
Where would a bunch of food carts gathering and having a space for that be in this list?
Yeah, we'll get there under temporary uses.
I'm thinking not temporary, like what you
Okay.
find in Portland, or there's a new one in Wheat Ridge where they're actually set up.
They're like permanently stationed there?
They're stationed there. I don't know if they're permanent. They look like food carts. I don't know if they move or not, but the whole parcel is set up to have permanent food carts and eating places for
So
customers.
likely how they would have to get it permitted is there would be a restaurant as your primary use, and then you'd have to get individual temporary use permits for anything that you can move on and off the property. Unless you created a separate use that basically said like, we're gonna allow this as right as a separate use and you don't have to get our food truck permit if it's all contained within the lot, which we could do.
Like a food cart. It's one of the things that I thought might go well on the Bailey property over on Ames behind Arby's. That's a big empty spot that people could pull in off of Sheridan easily. They could create like picnic tables.
Yeah, we
and-
could add that to the definition of restaurant if council's comfortable with that. So I guess any objections to adding that to the definition of restaurant?
I like that theory, but then again, I go back to what we were talking about, smells, because they have,
Generators.
yeah, and they have barbecues and they have those types of things. So we would have to look at how that would impact the neighbors, right? The smells.
And that's why I'd probably lean towards keeping it as a temporary use permit. It's a lot more work for them because each one of those vendors has to get the permit. But within that permit, that's where you're able to regulate those uses. And we have some use-specific standards that get at that now.
I mean, just keep in mind that it's always, the most important thing is creating sustainable revenue for the town. That's what we're trying to solve here in large part at this particular part of the land use code update. That the residents are not well served. They don't have the services that they need to long-term in a sustainable way. If we don't make it easier for revenue-producing commercial establishments to come to our town. So we're still serving the residents when we do that, even if these are things that maybe there are people who wouldn't be happy with that particular use. Overall, as a goal, that's what you're doing here by allowing for different establishments, commercial establishments, to come to the table.
So I can ask the question again. Do you want to expand the definition of restaurant to allow those types of uses by right? I guess I should say, is there any objection? I think we've got one. Is there any other objections?
I object to.
Okay. Any others?
I think I see Councilmember Davis also objecting. Do you agree? Councilmember Davis, you can give us a thumbs up if you agree that you don't want, he is agreeing.
Okay.
Yeah,
So looks like we'll stay as is there. Still
makes sense.
possible, but just more work.
that makes sense.
Okay, so moving on, veterinary and animal services. This is a conditional use in the MXC district with use-specific standards. Those use-specific standards primarily get out sort of the noise and smell that you might get with those types of facilities and making sure that they don't leave the property. Any objection there?
I just have a question. How does the veterinary animal service, how does that differentiate between,
Boarding?
like if we go to a medical facility?
Oh yeah, it specifically says in the definition for medical facility, it's only humans.
Okay, but it's still going to be how is that
I see your
revenue
question.
generating if we're concerned about providing services versus generating income?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yep, good
It's the
point.
same consideration applies definitely. So I didn't understand the question at first.
We should remove it.
So with that, yeah, are you interested in removing that altogether?
Well, I see that we have within our community, I can think of 1, 2, 3 walking distance that we could take our animals to.
Okay.
Yes.
So I guess, is there any objection to removing this use altogether?
Councilmember Davis, any objection?
Councilmember
Same.
Bailey's on as well.
Oh, great. Okay, so hearing no objection, we'll remove that one, and then we're moving on to industrial utility, communication, and energy uses. So these are all accessory uses, meaning that they must, or they can only be permitted with another permitted use on the land. In other words, this can't be the main use on the land. And a lot of these are heavily regulated by the FCC. So the first one, commercial wireless telecommunication service, has use-specific standards, again, really in accordance with the FCC about how you co-locate those facilities to try to bring down sort of the visual impacts as much as you can, but you can't really do much else in regulating those types of uses. Any objection there?
Can you give us some examples of what?
Yeah, so like an antenna to be able to transmit mobile wireless, what's the word? Networks? Telecommunications. Those types of facilities. You typically see them on roofs, and a lot of times you see them on light poles. That's what co-location means. It has to be co-located with a different use and try to be blended in. So throughout Denver, you'll see them all the time, but you probably never realize them. There's a bajillion of these little cell phone towers. They're all at the tops of existing light poles.
How does it benefit the town?
Yeah, you must allow them per the FCC, and you must not discriminate against the use per the FCC. So you can regulate your typical kind of police powers. So we're talking about location, design, setbacks, that kind of stuff. But you can't discriminate against permitting those types of uses. And if you wouldn't mute,
It's Doc's feed.
Councilmember Davis is muted, though.
I just muted it.
Oh, okay.
cool.
So we don't have an option, right? These are regulations.
Really, the only option you have is to be less restrictive. In other words, allowing it everywhere, not only as accessory, but also as principal, and to get rid of the use-specific standards so that they don't have to co-locate, they don't have to blend them. That's really the only option, is to go sort of the less restrictive route. Okay, geothermal energy systems. Any objections there? This is like a heat pump. Okay, minor utilities. This is like an electric substation. Any objections there? Okay, solar collectors. So like solar panels with use-specific standards related to how high they can protrude, essentially requiring that they blend as much as possible. Any objections there? Okay, same thing for wind energy conversion system, same thing there, and this probably isn't what you're thinking. This isn't a giant wind turbine. The modern ones look like little fans on roofs. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right, so moving on to accessory uses. I think we're gonna get there. I have about 10 minutes before we do public comment. So accessory dwelling units, to your point. So this would comply with state law, even though we are not required to because of the size of Mountain View, but it's generally mimicked off the state law requirements, allowing accessory dwelling units as a use by right in every residential district with very basic use-specific standards that basically just require that it be smaller and designed similarly to the primary dwelling unit. The reason I recommend this is that you're right on the edge. So if you get a little bump in population at some point, you're going to have to start conforming with state law. And I think it's going to be a difficult thing for a future person in my seat to be able to catch, or any of you.
Does this allow us to gain the accessory dwelling friendly jurisdiction?
Yep.
Certification or
Designation,
whatever it is?
yep.
Designation, yeah. So that then is a way to bring Prop 123 money to our residents.
And you said friendly, I'm sorry.
It's ADU,
So
Ms. Campfield.
the state has some accessory-friendly dwelling community grant money that will help residents build accessory dwelling units, but you have to be an ADU certified community. And so until we become an ADU certified community, we can't apply for those grant fundings, but they're doing another round of grant funding in October, or August or October. But
August, I believe.
I cannot apply for the grant money until we're a certified ADU community.
And if you guys recall, we got an email from a community member about this.
What's the timeline for that certification and the
I'm
process?
so sorry, Rick. Can I punt on it just because I have 9 minutes?
we can-
Yep. Get back later. So sorry. Thank you. Any objections to the ADU regulations as permitted? Okay, so these are all accessory uses by right. I'm going to speed through them. Yell objection if you got one. Electrical vehicle charging station. All right, parking garage and parking lot.
What's the difference between a parking garage and a parking lot?
Parking garage is in the building, so it's actually in a building.
So we'd
It's
be
either-
looking like additional storage. If we had a unit, we'd be going up higher to allow parking underneath, or?
Not necessarily, and we'll get to that question in the next work session. But essentially, a parking garage just allows you to be able to bury the parking within the building or detached from the building, whereas a parking lot has no structure or building attached to it. It's just a paved outdoor structure or outdoor surface.
You have that listed under residential 1, though.
Correct. It'd be an accessory use there as well, like a garage to your home.
Okay, not underground or just a garage.
Could be, right? Yes, it could be under however they want to put that parking garage as part of the design of their home. Unless you want to regulate that as a part of the next work session, they could design it however they wanted.
How do we do that with our water table?
Yeah, I was just
Don't we
gonna,
have
thank you,
issues with-
Leo.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, a question probably better served for the next work session when we talk about development standards. Again, just the use here and not really talking about whether it is possible from an engineering or design perspective. So any objections to those parking garage or parking lot permissions?
Not now.
Okay. All right, we'll go on to greenhouse with some use-specific standards related to the structure itself. Any objections there? All right, home occupations with use-specific standards related to how much it can take up of the dwelling and the type of occupation. In other words, the type of work you can conduct out of your home. Any objections there? All right. So outdoor eating area, this would be accessory to mostly restaurants and bars and bars and breweries with accessory or use-specific standards that require it not to take up too much of the sidewalk so you can still have an easy passing lane. Any objections there?
I was surprised you didn't have an A in the residential section, if somebody wants to have like a little picnic area in their yard.
Oh, so that wouldn't even be regulated as a
Doesn't-
separate use. Yeah, you'd fall
Okay.
under your primary dwelling use there.
Okay,
Good question.
well, not really. Moving on.
All right, urban agriculture. So this is like having a community garden.
Don't we want to add that to the MXN?
We certainly could. Again, this isn't a sales tax generating use. It's also quite land intensive typically, unless you have it on top of a building, which is possible. So up to council. I guess let's ask the question, are there any objections to adding it to the MXN, urban agriculture?
No.
No.
No objections? All right.
For some reason, I was picturing it as a revenue generator. But,
No, because you actually specifically can't really sell the produce as a part of these.
right, then I don't think we should add it. I take that back. But,
Sounds like we had no objection on it.
right, so do you have any objection to pulling it back
Well-
from MXN?
Couldn't like a CSA kind of,
Yeah,
I
you
suppose
could
that's
have a
not
CSA,
revenue.
and that falls under state law, which I can't remember the name right now, that essentially does allow you to sell those types of non-meat produce kind of items, but it'd be pretty low generating. So I guess any objections to removing it now as an accessory use in MXN? Sounds like we're kind of
I mean,
indifferent either
we
way.
have talked about, am I confusing that with, we've had many discussions in the past about community gardens? Is that different?
Nope, it's this.
Okay, so my understanding is there are many residents who would like to participate in a community garden.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if I think about our comp plan, like a community garden is just in line with that small neighborhood feel. So I think I'm in support of leaving it in the MXN.
Okay. Sounds like
That's fine.
no real objections there. Okay, short-term rental. We just did a lot of this work fairly recently, so I didn't really change anything, and I'm just cross-referencing out to those standards. Any objection there? Okay, so we're moving into our last category, which is temporary uses. Only 4 to go. Thanks for sticking with me. All right, so food truck, which we talked about earlier. So that'd be a temporary use in the MXC district with some of those use-specific standards, kind of getting to your earlier point about sort of mitigating the impacts of things like generators. Any objection to that? All right, and we're moving on to garage sale. That would be a temporary use in the R1 and MXN district. It's a temporary use, but it's kind of not. Essentially what the temporary use permit says is that you don't actually have to get a permit for this. If you do it, I can't remember the number. I think it's like less than 5 days.
4 days.
4
I
days a
think
year.
it was,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's just a way of saying like, hey, you can't sell your stuff every single weekend in the town.
I have a question
Yeah.
about that, because the code right now says you can have up to 3.
Okay.
And somewhere in here I read that it was just 1.
I think it's 4 days right now. Let me see. Yeah, less than 4 days a year is what we have in the draft.
So if I had a garage sale in July and it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I couldn't have another one for the rest of the year?
You could have one more day.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's put that on the future agenda schedule for garage sale conversations.
Okay.
And not get stuck here as to whether or not we're going to allow them and how much.
Okay.
Like, that can be changed, right? Because I know that is a conversation that we haven't had in a long time.
Why don't I put that on our consolidated list? Or if you want to pull it out
Yeah,
to a different.
that's
Okay.
fine too.
Okay, so seasonal sales. This is like a Christmas market. So it's not like a resident selling pottery in their front yard or what have you. It's like a more town organized market for sales. So that would be a temporary use permit in the MXC district. Any objection there? All right.
I wonder, is there any reason why we couldn't add it to the MXN as well?
You certainly could. Typically, when you do these types of seasonal sales, you're talking about some road closures or at least like alleyway closures. You can definitely do it. It requires a little bit more work often in practice when you've got to get like 12 single-family dwelling neighbors to sign off rather than like one larger commercial lot. But totally up to council. So I guess I should say, any objection in adding it to the MXN district?
No.
All right, right on. Oops. Okay, last one is special events. So this kind of takes seasonal sales and expands it. This would be like a festival or carnival or something like that, where you're closing off major thoroughfares of the town. This is typically a third party coming in and saying, hey, we want to host some like festival or whatever it is in your town. They'd go through this process to be able to get it. It's quite a lot of use-specific standards related to it as well, but it gives you at least the option to do so. So any objections to allowing that all throughout town? Okay, we did it. Got 30 seconds to spare.
Excellent.
So I think we'll do public comment now.
Yeah. Does anybody in the audience, we're asking the room first, if anybody would like to weigh in on this particular topic related to the code, the land use update? If so, you're welcome to come up to the front and share your thoughts. Is there anybody logged in online that would like to share their thoughts?
No one's raised their hand.
Okay, with that, can I just take 2 more minutes
Go
then?
ahead. Yep.
I'll just ask if there's any other uses that you wanted more clarity on, wanted to go back to. Let's use that this time to do that now, if there is any. If not, we can just move on. Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much. Oh, sorry.
Councilmember Davis?
Oh, yes. Wow. Oh, that echo. Just the thought of the medical facility. I would rather see a medical facility in there than an empty lot.
Gotcha. So that comment goes back to council's earlier decision to remove medical facilities as a permitted use everywhere. So I think Councilmember Davis is saying if maybe it's not as far as allowing it by right, but maybe conditionally. I'll throw out one quick topic that we can talk about just really briefly, but probably better for a different discussion, which is there is something called a vacant use approval, which means when the property owner can show that the land has been vacant for a certain amount of months, then they get a whole new onslaught of uses that we typically wouldn't allow. So that's something you can consider. I typically think of it as like a backdoor option and don't give it unless you're really having trouble, and see what the market can do with like sort of your prime time, what you really want in your dream town kind of world. And if it's not working, then use that back pocket option, because in my view, there's a whole lot of ways for developers to just sit on land for 9 months and say, what I really want is a medical facility, I'll wait it out. So it kind of goes back and forth, goes both ways. So let's go back to the question, though. Does council, I guess if you want to change the regulation of medical facilities from what we decided earlier, that it's not going to be permitted anywhere in town, speak now.
Well, may I ask about your exception, like if it's an empty lot? Because if you think about it, where is the closest urgent care? Where is the closest medical services within Tennyson?
On 38th, right by Sprouts.
Oh, there is on 38th and Sprout? Okay.
After hours, or hours, yeah.
Say that again?
I think it's after hours.
Like AFC, that
Yeah.
is it? Yeah.
Okay,
After
And there's
hours
one
clinic.
just a few more blocks down as well. There's 2 of them.
okay. And those generally are not
Not much.
revenue generating, but we could consider that if we were vacant for a long time
Yeah.
and we needed something.
Correct. And that's typically what I recommend. I say, like, get your dream world out there. Like, you do this once in a generation, right? Like, get exactly what you want and see if the market will deliver it. If you find in a couple years, like, we've gotten no applications, the market's not delivering anything, we got to revisit the restrictiveness.
Okay. My personal opinion would be to put that in the back pocket,
Okay.
so to speak.
I agree.
So, Councilmember Davis, sounds like it might have been a swing and a miss, but we will put that sort of on our radar for a future discussion, pending sort of this process not turning out in practice to be what we hoped. That sounds all right with you?
Is Councilmember Bailey on with us?
No, she's dropped off.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys. You did a lot of hard work. We got through about half the land use code already. And I really appreciate everyone sort of working together and working through this process very quickly. I'll just tell you the next topics are going to be pretty touchy, right? You're going to have a lot of folks that are 100% against it and 100% for it. We'll get there. We absolutely will get there. We've got to just kind of be creative and work together. But we're going to start the next work session with those dimensional standards. We're going to come right out of the gate and we're going to say what the setback is, what the height is, and what the minimum lot size is for every district in town. And I look forward to it.
So buckle in.
Can we have a break before we?
Yes, we are not going to start for another 5 minutes. I want to just quickly welcome Adam Paul to the table, and we're going to take a 5-minute break or a 5-minute break at 7:25. We'll come back at 7:30. Thank you.
Only 1,600 of
It is 7:31, and I'm calling our meeting back to order. I am very pleased to welcome our guest speaker tonight, Mr. Adam Paul, who is the Director of Government Affairs in the Office of the Mayor in the City and County of Denver. Welcome, Adam, and thank you for being with us tonight. I think the goal here is to educate the voters on the pros and cons of the two broad types of Colorado municipal governments. And remember that this is a presentation that will also be shared online after the fact, because I know council was the goal here for council was that you wanted the voters to get some education. And after this presentation, we will post this presentation on our website. So those who are not able to join us in person will be able to watch it afterwards. And with that, I will give the floor to Adam, and I believe our clerk has the presentation up. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for having me here this evening, and to our community members. My name is Adam Paul, and I've been associated with local government for some time. I grew up in Lakewood, and I served on the Green Mountain Water Board for 6 years. So as you know, there's a lot of different elected opportunities throughout the state of Colorado. After 6 years, I ran for the Lakewood City Council and served 8 years on the Lakewood City Council. And then in 2015, ran for mayor and did 8 years as the mayor in Lakewood. And my last year, I went east of Sheridan and joined Mayor Johnston as his Director of Government Affairs, and kind of overlapped for a couple of months, which is a really cool opportunity. But I think a great opportunity for me to be here tonight is I've served as a council mayor, council manager, and served under a strong mayor. So we'll go ahead and get started, and please ask questions as we go. Just go ahead and stop me and we can roll from there. All right, so here's our two common forms of municipal government: council mayor, also called mayor council or strong mayor. Voters elect both a mayor and council. The mayor performs administrative duties. Second piece is that council manager, which I talked about at City of Lakewood. Most municipalities, except for I think 4 in Colorado, operate under the council manager. Voters elect both a mayor and council. Council hires a professional city manager to administer the day-to-day operations. All right, get into a little bit of how it works. So council mayor, here's your structure. Your chief executive is your mayor. Legislative body is the council, makes those legislative actions. The mayor may have veto power, and then in some municipalities where the veto power is allowed, you can also have a veto override. So in Denver, there is a veto override for the mayor. Council may confirm appointments, I guess, as in Mountain View, and also City and County of Denver. There's quite a few by charter that are then ratified by the city council. Typical responsibilities: oversee administration, council passes the ordinance, and then of course sets the policy, as you were doing earlier tonight. The org chart, we always have the voters at the top. They elect the mayor, the council in this form, and then from there it goes to your staff levels who rise up to the mayor. Council manager structure, the council is just strictly your policy-making body. So coming together, really understanding what the community wants, and then directing the city manager to carry that out. They hire the town manager. The manager oversees the day-to-day operations, and the mayor serves as ceremonial presiding officer. Again, when you go to those responsibilities, sets policy and implements policy and oversees staff. Some council manager forms of government will also hire three bodies, maybe the judge, the town judge, the town attorney, and the city manager. So that's common in some communities. And there's the org structure again, always the voters, mayor and council, mayor as that figurehead, down to the town manager, and then you have your deputy department heads moving throughout the organization. All right. So here's, you can see arguments commonly made in favor of the council mayor. The primary benefit is that the voters choose directly who's going to do the day-to-day operations. That is who you want to see in there. That's what you run for, and you have that opportunity. You also have the veto authority, can serve as a check on council decisions. So on the flip side, your council manager form, professional administrator selected based on those qualifications. So really, and this was born out of the progressive era of the early 1900s, and really tried to curb favoritism, go go back to like Tammany Hall, those sorts of things, and really create a professional operation to run the day-to-day aspects of a city while having an elected body. So that nice blend of having both of those. Broader recruitment pool, because there can sometimes go outside of that town, or most likely would. More insulated from political influence, right? That they serve at the pleasure of the board, and then just really implement the policies that were there, and then deal with all the HR and things along those lines. Again, manager serves at the pleasure of the council, an emphasis on council policy-making role. So arguments commonly made against council manager. Manager holds significant administrative authority. Manager may be from outside the community, right? Especially in a smaller community like this, certainly that could be the case. Less direct accountability to the voters, and that just switches because all the accountability then lies with the body, with the elected body. Community may perceive a lack of visible political leadership, but again, that leadership is still in that elected realm. Managers may leave for higher paying positions. That's certainly a possibility. And potential confusion about roles, mayor versus manager. I can speak well to that. It can be very frustrating when you are in a manager form of government and your neighbor's street doesn't get plowed and they say, well, aren't you the mayor? Can't you get this fixed? And you say, have to explain to them how that works. So it can be kind of frustrating. And I actually call it a weak mayor form of government because that's just the way it is versus that strong mayor. All right. So going across the top of this table, you'll see the current Mountain View charter with no town administrator hired, and going down, you'll see the ceremony and legal head of government, and that would actually be the same for all three columns, mayor, mayor, mayor. Then when you move to who selects the chief administrative executive, the current structure is the voters. And then in that second column, current Mountain View charter with a town administrator hired would be the mayor. And then would be the voters. And then the third would be the council on the council manager. Who is the chief administrative executive? Currently be the mayor. Current Mountain View charter with a town administrator hire would be the mayor. And then in the council manager form, that's where you would see it change to your town manager. Role of town administrator currently, not applicable. And then the current Mountain View charter with a town administrator hired at the discretion of the mayor and council per job description and administrative policy and in accordance with your charter and adopted code. And then not applicable on the council manager. And then lastly, what is the removal mechanism for the chief administrative executive? Currently, it's an election or a recall. Current Mountain View charter with a town administrator hired, election or recall. And then on that last one, if you had a council manager, it would be council termination with a charge in writing a majority of council. So again, that goes back to the administrator, the manager's hired, serves at the pleasure of the city council or town council. So you'll see a comparison of your trade-offs. Council, mayor, executive leadership through your elected mayor. So that's your neighbors, right? It's people within your community that you elect. May appoint a professional staff, chief administrator as the town administrator currently. Flip side is, again, you have that professional manager and most likely you would look for somebody who has really focused on that in their career, the day-to-day operations of running a community, planning, legal, all kinds of different experience that would help guide that. And then it's often compared to your school boards or superintendent model where the super's hired and serves again at the pleasure of the board. Costs are legit. I know, Mayor, you probably make a lot of money here, so, but salary of elected mayor versus professional mayor, much different. Certainly there's recruitment costs, potential turnover costs, and costs vary significantly by the size and local charter. A lot of communities also have a residential requirement for their town manager so that they live in that community or part of that community. It can be a little bit more challenging in smaller areas or where the cost of living is so high. Okay, so we mentioned 4 municipalities in Colorado run on a mayor council. Does anybody want to take a guess at who 4 of those are?
Pueblo, Denver, the Springs, here.
Yeah, well done. It's amazing. And you can see, I mean, some town manager or city manager forms of government. I mean, Aurora is a very large municipality under a city manager. And when you break that down, also not always do mayors vote. I don't know, Mayor, do you vote or you do cast a tiebreaker? So when I was mayor in Lakewood, I was actually a member of the body and I was able to vote. So they can vary in those structures as well, whether or not the mayor participates in voting or just really facilitates. That can come through your charter provisions and ordinances on how you develop that. And some municipalities appoint administrators or managers to coordinate operations. So there's a lot of different ways that different communities operate in this world. In fact, some communities elect their mayor from their body rather than at large. So there's a lot of different forms to the local governance. Effectiveness often depends on your leadership and coordination, clear administrative responsibility, and those local priorities. And those last two are really important because in council kind of manager type of governance, it can be tough because you are strictly the policy-making body, and those day-to-day operations are empowered to your town manager. And so, you know, giving directives to staff, things along those lines. I read a little bit about kind of how you operate, same way, in how you administer or deal with staff. But, you know, in the city of Lakewood, we were really limited to who we could, you know, certainly could not direct staff in any fashion, and had to really work through the city manager to make sure that we were within the guidelines and operating within the structures of the city. Now in Denver, the mayor has close to probably 75 appointees, which I'm one of those, including all the agency heads, and it's much different. We can interact with staff on behalf of the mayor whenever we want or need to. Next. Sorry. Bless you.
It's switched on here. I don't know why it's not showing up there.
So questions voters may wish to consider. Oh, okay.
There you go.
As you continue these community conversations, and there's a lot of information through the National Civic League, through Colorado Municipal League, it really talks about how you can develop community conversations around these different opportunities and how you can build what's best for your community. You know, you are very unique in where you are and how you operate, and a lot of community pride. And so that's important to take into account when you look at how you want to proceed into the future. And so how should executive authority be structured? How should accountability operate? And I think more so than ever, you've seen local government can really be challenged. You see a lot on the news. In fact, back in times when I was the mayor, I had a very challenging time kind of throughout a few of those years. And that's just the reality. You're the closest to the people, right? They see you at the grocery store. You're their neighbor. And so I think more than ever, it's that much more important to understand what that accountability looks like. What's the balance between political leadership and professional management is desired, and what governance structure aligns best with your community values? So in summary, both forms provide representative local government, include elected policy-making bodies, operate under state and local charter, have advantages and trade-offs, and the decision is about structure, not about any specific individual. I think with that, questions? Please, Mayor Pro Tem.
You mentioned the Colorado Civic League, is that correct?
The National Civic League.
National Civic.
Yep.
And then you also mentioned another resource?
Colorado Municipal League.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And the National Civic League really goes back to the early 1900s when they started developing, you know, the structure of a manager form of government.
So off the top of your head, how many municipalities would you say that we have in the state of Colorado?
I think 271. I could be off by 2 or 3, but I think.
So of those 271, we have 4,
Yep.
right? We have the 3 large cities and our,
Yep.
I think we have a population right now of 511, is that right? So of those 271, how many have transitioned from a strong mayor to a manager form of government?
It's a great question. So I want to say even within the last 2 decades, Two went further towards the stronger mayor. So Pueblo became a strong mayor within the last 8 years, I believe. They had a much more unique council where they never had a mayor. I think they just had a body, basically a council, and that was how they operated. And then the Colorado Springs also gave more powers to their mayor. But I think what you've seen, being that there's only four, a lot of communities have probably gravitated more towards the manager council form of government.
And could you give a rationale as to why people or communities are focusing more towards that?
What I would say is there's a continuity of leadership that you get from having a professional manager of your city, right? You have your electeds who are part-time and are running businesses, raising families, doing a lot of other things. And so they really have their pulse potentially on the policy of what the community wants, the vision of what the community wants, but not always the engagement piece of that. And more so when you're looking at hiring a police chief or, other things in they have just town managers or that professional manager can have more of that experience than say when I was mayor and I had operated small businesses or things like that. So I think it's that level of professionalism and a continuity of leadership because we all come and go, right? Term limits work. And so you're going to turn, people over and you're going to have the good institutional knowledge. And now the kind of lifespan for town managers, city managers, it's not long. It's a very challenging job. I think it could be 6 to 8 years. Kathy Hodson, who's just announced her retirement in Lakewood, was one of the most long-term, and she was at 18 to 19 years. So that's pretty rare to have somebody stay that long because you see sometimes you move on or a new board comes on and they're just that manager's not meeting the goals that they want to see implemented, and it's time to have a separation and move forward. Yeah.
Do you happen to know how many staff report to the town managers in the strong mayor forms? I know you could probably speak to Denver, but I imagine they're much larger staffs than.
Yeah, so essentially in Denver, when you see that, you see the mayor at the top and he appoints all the agencies. So probably 11,000 people essentially respond to him. City of Lakewood, 3 responded to the council, right? That would have been the town or the city manager, the city attorney, and the chief judge. But the chief judge then is up for reelection, retained by the people. So that kind of folds off after you appoint the judge. And then, in that community of Lakewood, I think that was like 1,100 employees. So it varies, and some municipalities might have other department heads that are hired through city council or approved or ratified by city council, even under the manager form. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. I was just kind of curious because we're, fairly small.
Yeah.
And those other strong mayor forms seem to have a lot more staff.
Yeah, they tend to be very large cities, but when you do, it's pretty fascinating. Some of, there's cities in the top, I think, 15 in the country that have manager forms of government. So when you kind of do a search and you can see it runs the gamut from very small to very large, ones that you would think would probably be a strong mayor in their manager forms. Yeah.
So in terms of, what are the educational and experience qualifications for both?
Well, I was elected mayor, so the standards weren't very high. But I mean, the qualifications to be mayor, and I mean, you all know it, it's having your community has trust and faith in you, right? And they believe in you. You can really set up what you do want to see. What is unique to your community that you want to see in a CEO or a chief executive manager. And there's an international or a national organization that kind of gives credentials to city managers, and they can help build out kind of what those credentials look like. For instance, I can speak to, Kathy Hodson, who's leaving Lakewood, started out as a lifeguard at Morris Park Pool, and worked at the city through college, and then went on and ran our parks department, and then came in as city manager. So it can be a real blended background different things, but certainly management is going to be a big piece of that. And understanding community and community needs and being able to work with a body. That's always tough. I would never want to be a city manager, frankly. I mean, because, right, you have 7 bosses here. In Lakewood, Kathy had 11 bosses, and it can be quite challenging. So that's another piece, is how do you really manage those council relationships and understand that they're the people that are out front. You're the one that's internal and really making sure that everything's working for the community and you're implementing the will of the council.
What are the requirements for a mayor in Lakewood?
I think you have to be 18 and a resident, or 21. I should know that. But there are no bona fide kind of credentialed background or anything along those lines.
So no HR, no finance?
Nope. And
That causes problems when you have a mayor that doesn't have a background?
at-
Turn your mic on. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, you're good. So the question was, are there requirements for a mayor? And without those types of requirements, is that a challenge? I can't actually think of a locality, whether a strong mayor or not, that has any sort of requirements other than probably age and citizenship to be a mayor. And I'm not sure how you would implement. Certainly, it's great to have management backgrounds and understand, my current boss came from the nonprofit world and did some entrepreneurial things, right? So you kind of have a whole mix. I think Pueblo's mayor is a small business owner. Mayor Mobilati in Colorado Springs ran the chamber, so had some business background there. So it really does run the gamut.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Public comment next.
Public comments next.
Can she have a question for the presenter?
We typically don't open up agenda items to the public, but
But this is a presentation to the voters,
yeah.
so it seems appropriate to me. Can we ask the council?
Yeah, I guess if there's no objection, you can just
Are
make
there
it
any
as a-
objections?
No objection.
Thank you. Go ahead.
You gave the cons of council management, but I didn't hear the ones for mayor.
So I'll repeat the question, the cons of kind of mayor, council versus, or council manager versus council mayor. And so these are opinions, having worked in both. And I would say the cons can be that lack of continuity, right? So every election cycle, there's a possibility that that mayor is going to change. And when you have a large organization, that could be 75 different appointees that are going to go, 27 department heads that serve at the pleasure of the mayor. That's all going to change and have that upheaval, right? So while many times the incumbent does get reelected, that's not always the case. I think also you lose out on institutional knowledge. So when Mayor Hancock left and Mayor Johnston came in, because you swept out that, most of those appointees, some were reappointed, you lost a lot of that institutional knowledge that a city manager who comes through these different kind of waves of elected bodies carries a lot of that institutional knowledge and has a lot more of that background. So that's what I would say are kind of a couple of the cons. And that would keep me also employed with my boss by not saying anything bad about him. Yes.
Did you say that there tends to be less engagement with the model?
So in a manager model, so strong mayor, you're going to see your mayor out everywhere, right? They're going to want to be in the community and see. On a manager form, that's not really their job, right? Their job is to make sure the day-to-day operations are running, and they should be uplifting this body to be out in the community and supporting them, because this body is then strictly the policy-making body of your community. So that's where you'll see them take more of a back seat. You really don't want to see your city manager in the newspaper. Normally when you do, it's either because there's a retirement or they got in a car wreck on I-25 in a city vehicle and they shouldn't have been down there. Lakewood.
So would the council be policy-making things?
Yep.
Not necessarily.
No, they would facilitate the community still, right? And really represent what the community would want going forward and what they would like to see. And then the town manager would be the one implementing that. If that makes sense. So they're going to have their pulse on all of that, but the day-to-day operations will still be with that manager in a more professional, full-time capacity. Yeah,
Just one more question, I promise.
you're good.
Can you talk about like checks and balances in both forms of government?
Yeah, so the main check on a strong mayor is going to be the voters. And so that's going to either be, you're doing a great job, we're going to reelect you, you're doing a bad job, we're going to recall you, or we're going to wait your term out and try to vote you out. The checks and balances with a city manager is there's that accountability to the body. If he or she is not doing their job, then you can take it upon yourself to remove them. You don't have that election piece, and then you can start that kind of cycle over again of what worked, what didn't work, what you want to see in that leadership moving forward. So I think those would be the main ones, is truly that accountability to the body versus the voters.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your time today. We
Great.
really appreciate
And
it.
if you have any other questions, I'm easy to find. I'm happy to chat. So thank you.
Thank you.
Shake your hand and say thank you. We have public comment up next on our agenda. A person who wishes to give public comment must sign up and provide their name, residency status, and contact information prior to speaking. Anonymous comments will not be accepted. All virtual public commenters shall provide the required information prior to being given the floor by using the chat feature on Zoom. All virtual public commenters must have their camera on for the duration of the comment, and our town clerk will invite you to be a panelist, which would allow you to turn on your camera. Each individual may speak only once during each public comment period. All council members must listen attentively to public commenters, but no response shall be given to any public comment except the chair or council by majority vote may direct staff to follow up with a commenter. No person shall be allotted more than 3 minutes. Our clerk will call on people in the room who have signed up first, and then people who are attending remotely. And please come up to the microphone when you are called on and speak into the microphone so that those attending remotely may hear you and so that the recording captures your comment in full. Thank you. Ms. Cantfield?
There's no one signed up in the room. If
Is there
anyone,
anybody signed up remotely who would like to have a comment?
no one has their hand raised.
Okay.
Oh, hang on.
Hello?
Yes. Can you turn on your camera? I think the clerk's going to invite you to be a panelist, and then you have to accept that in order to turn on your camera.
I don't see where to turn my camera on. Here we go. Okay, wait a minute. I don't see where to turn it on. There, hold it there. Your chat function doesn't work, so I can't put myself in chat.
Okay, well, we see your hand up, and we see that you want to give a comment. Did you send him an invitation to be a
He's a
panelist?
panelist now.
But did you, so it's just that he hasn't
He's
been
already a
able to.
panelist.
I understand, but he needs to turn his camera on in order to have. Can you turn it on from this end?
I can't turn his camera on, no.
Okay. So I think the rules require you to turn your camera on, so if you're unable to do that.
Yeah, I can't figure out how to do it. Just see if we see audio, video. There's no.
The
Oh, there are
video.
video effects.
There
video
should be
effects.
something where you
Oh, there we
click
go.
video.
Here, I think this is it. Camera. I'm sorry, my video.
Does anybody want to make a motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of
No,
allowing the
no, don't do
commenter?
that. That's all right. Video.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules
Second.
to allow for the camera.
We have a motion and
camera.
a second to suspend the rules to allow the commenter to make his statement without turning on his camera. Since we have a remote meeting, all votes are done via roll call vote. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Lasher,
Yes.
Councilmember Debner,
Yes.
Councilmember Randolph,
Yes.
Councilmember Algeen,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes, motion passes. Therefore, the rules have been suspended and our member of the public may make their comment without having the camera on.
Okay.
Go ahead, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Carl Mitchum, an 18-year resident of 5461 West 41st Avenue. Thanks for allowing me to speak, especially in this exceptional situation where I can't seem to make my camera work. I have lived with 4 different mayors and multiple town councils. I've never been so disappointed in the conduct of a town council as currently. Just 5 months ago, Mountain View held an election for mayor and 3 council members. The mayor was strongly elected with 60% of the votes. No newly elected council member received as many votes. More people actually voted for mayor than for council, suggesting they consider the mayor's position more important. But the new council has taken multiple initiatives to counter the will of the voters by rudely attacking and systematically undermining the duly re-elected mayor. For instance, why has the mayor's column disappeared from the local monthly newspaper? A report from the town administrator, who doesn't even live in Mountain View, is no substitute for hearing from the town leader. Equally disappointing, the defeated mayoral candidate never practiced the civic courtesy of conceding. One of the basic lessons we all learn in elementary school is not to be sore losers. Finally, a special disappointment is the town attorney, who seems more willing, like too many lawyers today, to give in to power and undermine democracy than to practice professional integrity. I respectfully invite the council to reconsider its conduct and to undertake to work more collegially with the mayor, who is, after all, the strongly elected leader of our township. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Is there anybody else online who would like to make a comment? If so, please raise your hand. Do you see anybody?
No.
Okay, we will move on to agenda item number 8. Since we took a little break, I did have a break slated here. If council members need to take a break, please let me know. We'll continue on for now. Okay. So agenda item number 8 is our town administrator 3-month review. And this is per her contract provisions. Each council member completed a document and shared their ratings and comments, and all of those were combined and shared with the body as a whole. And I compiled and averaged our numerical ratings into a single number. Administrator Camfield was also kind enough to share her own list of accomplishments at the request of council members. So thank you for this, Ms. Camfield. I'm sure we all appreciate the extra effort. Administrator Camfield has requested this review be held at an open meeting. So that is why we're holding that at this point rather than an executive session. It's very clear to me from everybody's responses to the questions on the review document that the body wishes to retain Ms. Campfield in this position and believes she is doing a good job and meeting the requirements of her position. Therefore, I would like to go around the room, please, and confirm verbally, per the requirements of the contract, that we wish to maintain Ms. Campfield as the town administrator, which will then entitle her it will vest her in her severance package, is that the right word? set forth in Section 8 of the agreement that we signed with her. And I believe then we will have met our obligations. So I will go ahead and just start with, go in our normal order. Mayor Pro Tem Alguin, may I hear from you as to whether or not you wish to retain Ms. Cantfield in the role of town administrator?
I do. And may I make a comment?
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to recognize the administrator's unwavering commitment to professionalism, in particular with complex and challenging political environment. She has consistently demonstrated her ability to remain composed, objective, and effective. This reflects a high standard of integrity and resilience, and it has not gone unnoticed.
Thank you. Councilmember Bailey, I believe, is online. You have the floor.
Yes. Yes, I do wish to retain our town administrator. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis. Can you unmute yourself so that you may speak to the body? So let's say if you wish to retain Ms. Cantfield in the role of town administrator, please give us a thumbs up. Thank you. That was an affirmative from Councilmember Davis. Councilmember Debner.
Very much would like to retain Ms. Campfield. I've appreciated just her tenacity working here, and I look forward to, more time together. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Lasher.
Yes, I would like. Yes, I would like to, and I think you've done a wonderful job. So thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you. Councilmember Randolph.
Yes, I think she's done an amazing job, and I think there's several things that she's jumped on, and can I bring up a couple? Like the workers'
Certainly.
compensation audit. I mean, I'm curious, she came across that, did it. I'm curious as to why it wasn't on her job description. I think in the future that maybe council needs to kind of look at that and add or remove things, because I think there were missing pieces on the review, things that she had done that just weren't on there. So, yes, I appreciate everything she does. Thank you, Charity.
Thank you. Do you have anything that you would like to add, Ms. Campfield?
I would just like to thank the council for the opportunity to serve this community and for providing me with a contract that does include severance protections in a time when there has been understandable public attention and political discussion around my position. I think it is important to acknowledge that this contract was part of the hiring terms and provides a measure of stability and fairness for both me and the organization. Just as importantly, it gives staff and leadership a clearer framework during a period that could otherwise create uncertainty.
Thank you very much. Unless there's objection, then we will move on to our next agenda item. Our next agenda item is number 9. On your staff report starts on page 24 of our packet, and the ordinance itself starts on page 27 of the packet. This is a workshop to consider an ordinance that will be coming back in front of council for voting on. And I will just go ahead and give it to our town attorney to describe the ordinance and to handle the discussion.
Thank you. All right, so we'll go through this at a fairly high level. I just want to start with a quick caveat that this ordinance, even though it implicates taxes, does not create any new tax. It does not raise any new tax revenues right now. It creates no new revenues for the town. What this ordinance does is amend all of your current administration, collection, and enforcement procedures related to all of those taxes to make them consistent among taxes and to fill in some current pieces that will help your staff administer these taxes throughout time consistently. So that's the first big thing it does. The second big thing it does is take a more directed approach with your licensing chapter to make some more minor cleanup changes related to license expiration and renewal to make them consistent among all applications. So for instance, it makes all license expirations at the end of the year, December 31st, no matter when they're issued, and that will really help your town or your staff administratively with all these licenses. So
I just have one quick thing.
yeah, please.
A question on page 36, you've got property tax, and you've got that they levy an additional ad valorem property tax of 2.6 mils. Is that what this town is planning on doing, is increasing the property tax?
So all of these taxes have been approved by ballot initiative. This one even pre-Tabor. So back in, I think, the 70s or 80s, the town approved this tax. And so each year after you pass that ballot initiative per state law, you assess how many of those mills you're actually going to assess on property. So every year at the end of the year, we pass a resolution stating, hey, we are going to assess up to our entire 2.6 mills. I think we've done that every year since I've been here. And then you certify that to the state. And the state is the one who actually, or sorry, the county, and the county is the one who actually collects and administers that tax. And that's why it has slightly different treatment here. But want to be very, very clear, we are not creating any new taxes whatsoever in this process.
So when it's signed again this December, it's going to be 3.311 and not the 5.911 on
No,
property taxes?
no.
That's where I'm getting confused.
No, so you will have the option to go up to 2.6 mils. This is adding on the county tax. So that's why it says the additional. The county assesses a property tax. Local jurisdictions by ballot issue can choose to assess their own within their jurisdiction. So as a property owner in the town, you're getting property assessment, or one property assessment, two property taxes on that assessment, one from the county and one from the town. Each year, the town decides how much of their 2.6 mil maximum they're going to levy. Every single year I've been here, we've levied the full amount.
Okay.
But for instance, there were some jurisdictions who, during the last recession, decided to lower or completely reduce theirs for a period of time, which you get to choose just with property tax. It's kind of a little bit more wonky than other taxes in that way.
Okay, and then I have just one other question.
Please.
I know that you're going to amend chapter 4 and 6, and so I was trying to go through and compare what was in here to 4 and 6. Is there any way we can have those old chapters in here so we can see what's being changed?
We can certainly show you the current chapters. I will tell you chapter 4, I completely rewrote, completely. There was hardly a word that stayed. I surgically removed the entire thing and then put it all back together. And I did it that way to ensure that throughout time now, even as you add taxes, you'll just slice in one section to this ordinance rather than what you have been doing for the past 50 plus years, which is create a whole new tax section every time you pass a tax. And you also have to remember every time you pass a tax to do that. And if you don't, then you could be in a situation where you don't have any authority to, you could be in a bad situation. So we're correcting those issues.
Cool, thank you.
So I think that pretty much covers it, actually, unless there's other questions. Or is there other things you guys want?
Councilmember Debner?
Yeah, I guess I have a question for our town administrator. Operationally, how does this make it more efficient? We know it is, but I'm just kind of curious if you could speak to that a little bit.
And I can start at the beginning if you want. So all of your taxes right now have different administration, collection, and enforcement sections, every single tax. So when she's going to one business and saying, well, they haven't paid all 4 of these taxes, she's saying, okay, now I've got to go through 4 separate processes for each one of these. None of them are identical to the other.
Also, the expiration date.
Correct, is also different.
Did you want to add anything to that, Ms.
No,
Canfield?
he covered it all.
Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem?
So in the background, it states that in addition, the ordinance amends the code to make the expiration date for all town licenses December 31st. So my question is, will licenses be prorated?
For the first year, they would be prorated, and then after that, they would have to be renewed by December 31st, moving forward. And then
Exactly.
the fee itself, the initial fee, you haven't decided that. That would be a discussion in the fee schedule, if you would prorate when they apply, if they apply in June, if it's going to be, but that's more of a fee schedule issue than the
On
ordinance.
the list, right?
Okay.
That's good.
Huh?
Yeah, great question. And I believe that we can talk about this at the future agenda schedule, but we had the schedule of fees
We do.
on there.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments, concerns on this one? All right.
Wonderful. Council members who are attending remotely, do we have any questions?
I just had a quick question.
Councilmember Bailey?
I'm just curious why now, Austin? I feel like we've been doing this for 50 years. I mean, I know I'm not saying it's not a good idea. I was just curious why now.
It became clear to staff that there were issues that needed to be resolved in this process that required this code amendment.
Thank you.
We've been trying to get to it on some level for the past 4 years. It's sort of been, it wasn't the lowest hanging fruit because it was complex.
It was very complex.
Yeah.
This was a pretty heavy lift.
It's been something that we've known has needed to be improved, and then I think it's become more and more clear in recent months that like where the necessary improvements are. So it became, it just sort of made its way to the list.
That's well said.
Any other comments or discussion? Because what we're hoping is by holding a workshop on this ordinance, you know, ahead of time, that by the time it comes to the regular meeting, we'll be able to really breeze through it and have council's questions pretty much addressed. All right. Thank you, everybody. So then we will move on to our next agenda item, which is agenda item number 10. Again, this is a workshop for an ordinance that's going to come before council at our next regular meeting. The staff report starts on page 46 of your packet, and the ordinance itself, the draft ordinance, starts on page 48 of the packet. And our town attorney will introduce the ordinance.
Excellent. So this one is fairly simple. State law recently changed related to the licensing of massage facilities, and it required that local jurisdictions implement new requirements around licensing those facilities, primarily to prevent sex trafficking. So as a part of any new massage facilities to which we have none operating currently in the town, but if we have any in the future, they will be required to follow those state law requirements, including submitting a background check.
Do we have questions from council?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Austin,
Councilmember Bailey, you have the floor.
thank you. Austin, like, didn't this pass like many years ago? I like looked back through like my emails from you, and didn't this law change many years ago?
Yes, it did change a couple of years ago.
I guess then the same question is why. It's like, why didn't we do it back then? Maybe.
So typically when I send out memos related to state law, I try to make it clear that the ball is really in council's purview if they believe it's a priority to make any changes. So I think potentially because we haven't had any massage facilities in the town, it just didn't become a priority, but I can't really speak to that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Debner.
Just a clarification question. Since there's not licensing in place currently, would we know if there were a facility in town?
Yes.
Okay. How so? Like through other licensing?
They would have to come through and get a business license to be properly permitted within the town. And so we would know through that process. And through that process, your staff could identify, based off knowledge of that state law, that there could be additional elements at play.
Do we have any questions, any further questions from our council members who are attending remotely? Okay. Any other discussion from council? Thank you very much for all your hard work on both of these ordinances, actually. Moving on to agenda item number 11 is our budget discussion. And there's a memo from our town administrator that I believe starts on page 50 of your packet. And I'm just going to go ahead and give the floor to our town administrator for this discussion.
I have decided to bring this to the council because based off of our first 2 months invoices for legal fees, we have blown through almost 50% of our legal budget for the annual year. So I am predicting that we're probably going to have some budgetary issues later on because that was a heavy lift. And I don't see any decrease in legal fees anytime soon, but probably a massive increase. But I want to get ahead of this and I want to make sure that we don't end up in any other further budgetary issues. So what staff is recommending is a budget freeze on any discretionary spending, which is going to look at your town events, maybe the trees for this year, sidewalk repairs, things that we could probably put on hold realistically and responsibly until we can get a better sense of what this is going to look like and shake out for the rest of the year.
Councilmember Randolph?
With this tax ordinance that's going to pass, do we see any money coming in at all? Is there any back money owed?
We can't answer that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And you're going to go through and amend the budget? Like, for example, there's still janitorial on there. You're going to move it because Public Works is doing that work?
We're not going to move any money from the line items, right? So it's an overall fund balance that you can't go over, but the effort is to not spend in certain line items to make sure that your entire fund balance doesn't go over. And if we have to do a budget amendment, we will do so accordingly. But this is all extremely preemptive based off of the numbers I'm seeing for the first quarter.
I mean, I think you're asking for direction from council and alerting them to what you're seeing coming down based on the first 2 months of the year, what we're seeing in legal fees under the current circumstances. And you're proposing, just correct me if I'm wrong, I want to make sure that everybody's clear here, that you're proposing that we freeze non-essential spending and that you want to make sure that council approves that. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking right now.
So that would be, we need council to tell us, should we not have Taco Tuesday? Because we've previously budgeted for Taco Tuesday. Given the circumstances, is that something that council wants to do? Should we not plant trees? Should we hold off on a sidewalk repair program, that kind of thing? Councilmember Debner.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, this is a situation no council wants to be in. But I very much appreciate the proactive approach and letting us know and preparing this memo. I am largely in support of the recommendations in the priority that they're listed.
Can we speak to what has increased the legal fees in the last 2 months?
I can speak to it.
Thank you.
I can't speak to other attorneys' future legal costs related to the magistrate process and that complaint process. I can speak to my personal legal fees. And so I'd put it really in 3 buckets. I'd put it first in additional services being requested. So that's things like completely rewriting the employee handbook, our rules, massive sections of your code. Probably over 80 pages of your code, just this year so far. And items like that. I think at one point, just to give you some sense, this year recently, I had 12 work product items for the town on my list. Normally you hover around 2 to 3. So just to give a sense of sort of the volume we were seeing. I will see, in my view, those are hopefully one-time expenses. You sort of do your employee handbook, you completely rewrite it, you get it into a version that council wants to see for the future, and hopefully you don't have to look at it for quite a while. Same with those code changes. Those aren't things that you come back to super often. And I do want to make clear that this has nothing to do with the MVCC project, right? That's separately budgeted and has a grant as well. So we're not talking about being over budget in that process. We're not at all. We're well within budget for that process. This is general fund expenses. So I think that's bucket one. And the second I would say is process changes, primarily related to the rules. And so we had this sort of changing of direction, I think, from council where they wanted to have, and I'll just name it the way I see it, direct access to me whenever they wanted. Whereas before there was a middle person, it was the mayor, who you would go through the mayor first and say, hey, I have this legal question, or I have this question, I don't know if it's legal. And then she would sort of direct you from there. And that would sort of filter out some of those requests and what have you. What we did instead was address this within the rules, where in the rules you have by right a direct access to your town attorney unless it goes over a certain amount of time. And that's something, again, council could look at all of those things. Those are all policy procedural changes that you can certainly go back to, but it is a change worth noting that has come with additional time. Another one I'd mention, which probably isn't huge, is like the fact that I'm here tonight at a work session. Typically, I would be remote for these or even not attend if I'm not presenting on any items. Right. But because council made the decision to workshop all ordinances, I'll probably end up being at all of these. And because we moved the MVCC project to workshops, I'll probably be at all of these, at least until that project, but likely almost all of them just because of the ordinances, and you likely want me here to discuss those. I don't know. That's a council decision.
Right.
And the third I would say is like one thing you can change those first two things in a lot of ways. You can say, hey, don't work on this anymore, or, we're going to really siphon down what we want you to work on. And I welcome those conversations for sure. But the third thing you can't really put off is defending legal actions. You kind of need your attorney to be present and spend as much time as necessary to defend those actions. So that's the one that you can't really waver on, but those, to me, are your three buckets. Does that?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there questions from our remote council members? Okay, thank you, Councilmember Davis.
Thanks, Austin, for that input. But yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned defending yourself against legal action, pointing it as a current problem.
Sorry, we're having a little trouble hearing you. Can you try one more time?
I was just thanking you for your explanation of the legal fees, and also just noting that you had said, that you have to defend yourself against legal action, and so that's obviously something we're currently facing that is obviously not public.
But that hasn't been something that has been billed on the first two bills for the year. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. Any other questions for discussion, or, Councilmember Randolph?
I just spent a lot of time today going through stuff. I'm kind of, just shut it off. Thank you, Ryan.
Can you please
I just
direct
know
your
going
mic
back to
at your mouth?
June 16th, 2025, the meeting for the 2024 audit. The auditor said at that point, you were going to be in trouble in 1 to 2 years if you didn't quit spending money. And then we bought the house on Bennett. And I went through the check register that was in the last month's meeting. And the amount of money that's being spent on very miscellaneous stuff, I guess I need to understand the control on that. A lot of this was a First Bank Visa. There's lots of paper towels. There was $175 for Save the Date flyers, $375 when we did our goals on 12/15, plus the whiteboard for like $60. I was surprised at that. Also bought a sander to redo the board. I have a sander at home I would have loaned you. instead of spending $86 on a sander for one-time use. I mean, I've done a lot of accounting, and my job was to control cost, and going through this really, really upset me. Seeing all this miscellaneous stuff that I don't know what controls you've put in Charity about spending, but there's just a lot.
So one of the items that we recently worked on was your purchasing policy, which is new. And so that is coming
At the next meeting.
at the next meeting. And that will be the first time the town comprehensively sets out a policy related to those types of expenditures.
Going through the minutes today, that's been worked on since July of '25. And I think once the auditor said that you were going to be in trouble, it should have been priority to stop the spending. And so I'm just curious as to why. The other thing that I saw is we're still paying water bills for 4183, 4185 Ames, 4375 Benton Street. We're paying trash and sewer plus water. I mean, I just call this nickel and diming.
So with the water bills, what you're technically paying for is the availability of service. So if you completely disconnect the water services, you then have to pay for an all-new tap fee to connect back into the system. So it's a base minimum fee that we have to pay just so there's water to the property until we know how we're going to develop it.
Okay, that makes sense. We also have to pay taxes on Benton Street. $2,900. It's half of it's been paid, half of it is owed.
I think I need to investigate that because we shouldn't be paying property taxes.
And then I had a question about the Armstrong. They billed over $3,000 for the two small snowstorms in January. One of them was less than an inch when I Googled it. So I was confused as to why we're paying them so much money.
That's going to be a discussion that's on the May 2nd work session.
And then I would also like to make a request to do a RFP for IT. Because onset went up from 20, I can tell you here. It took a big jump. So if we want to cut costs, I think we could get, IT went from 1,700 to 2,371. I wasn't sure. It says it's IT services and software, March of 2026. That's a $600 jump.
That was the contract that council approved. I believe that was highlighted
So
when the
now
council.
it's going to be $2,300 a month and not 17?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know that the last council, there was a raise in the services. There was a discussion about what was being brought and why the increase, and council approved the contract. So it's probably bigger because that's what council approved.
But don't we want to know why it's bigger?
Well, we do know why it's bigger. If I had a heads up that that was something you were going to want to talk about, I would have brought that information, but we'll bring it back to the next meeting.
Okay.
And it was shared with council at the time that you approved the contract. I think what our town administrator is saying is similar to what Councilmember Randolph is saying, is that because of the increased time that our town attorney is having to spend at the table or with this table, that there are things that she's seen, like extrapolating the last two bills, that she's noticing that we're going to be way over budget in our attorney's bills. And so she would like to come back to you and say, here's what I propose cutting, and she needs your approval to do that.
You have my approval to do that.
I want to thank Councilmember Randolph for identifying items outside of that we may need to take a closer look at what our patterns of spending are. But I do think that I'm in agreement that we should have a freeze. And I think that I did see that, we received a flyer for Taco Tuesday. We also saw in the Gazette, there's a list of events. So I think we really owe it to our residents to share why we would be canceling or why we're canceling events. Also, I just want to share one thing that I find valuable, which is just a sacrifice, it is what it is the CML conference, because some new council members have not had that experience, and I find it to be quite educational and a great networking, but we would have to also sacrifice the CML conference. But we can look at other free services that are free training or sessions that are offered through CML. So I would like to be able to do more of a research in that and share that so that we all have an opportunity to take advantage of those services.
CML puts out a list of free classes, and I actually took 2 of them in March, one being HR issues and the other leadership strategies. So I can get council a list of all the free classes that they have, and if you're interested, I can get you signed up.
Okay.
Councilmember Debner?
Just a question for clarification. So if I wanted to tap into my own personal budget to attend the CML conference, I would still be able to register and attend?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I really appreciated you breaking down the buckets. I know there are some buckets of legal spending that simply cannot change. You said there were some buckets that perhaps we could change. Could you go back to those 2 and say, so that council can be very thoughtful about the decisions that they're making? Because what we're saying here is that we're going to cut, what I'm hearing council say is that we're going to cut Taco Tuesday, our annual picnic, planting trees, building sidewalks, going to CML, in order for council to have access to the attorney 24/7, or not 24/7.
Hope not, but it seems that way.
That's one of the things. And so I want council to look right at that and understand that that's one of the buckets. It's not the only reason for the spending, the increase in spending, but it is one of the reasons for the increase in attorney's bills. And I want us to be very clear that you're making a decision to cancel those events because you want to continue on in that way. Councilmember Debner had his hand up first.
Yep.
I guess the way that I look at it is ensuring that our governance here is operating legally. I mean, that seems like a core function. And I think the 30-minute limit, I think that, that is some measure of control for that spending. So I think, moving forward, we can be mindful. And honestly, I've thought it very valuable to, transparently sharing the attorney responses with all of council. It's been informative, educational, and I think that serves the town long term. And it does seem like there's areas that we could trim. For one, we don't have a purchasing policy. That seems like a must have. Like, I have my own personal purchasing policy for my budget, and I would really like to see that implemented for our town.
Can I ask why that has been talked about but never has been brought to council?
I think the biggest thing is when we were ready to take it to council, it was discovered that Austin hadn't reviewed it, and that's what delayed it, because that was during the time of the back-to-back January, February meetings, and it got punted because of everything else. And so that's why it hasn't been brought to council. That's why it's coming on the 20th for approval.
Great, thank you.
Can I say one more thing, just process-wise? So that document was originally sort of crafted to a degree in committee, right? So council created a committee that kind of created this purchasing policy. Totally council's call to do that. You guys know like how type A I am. Like, it takes me a while to sort of make a document created by a non-lawyer and then put it up to what it has to be for you guys to actually review and approve it. So that did take me a little bit longer for that reason.
And then I have another question. Can I go?
I think, I'm sorry, I had Councilmember Randolph
I
was
just
next, and then we'll come back.
Need clarification on what you said is, the way what I heard was you said, we're going to have to cancel things because council wants to still have contact with Austin. Well, I don't agree with that at all. I think, like I said earlier, you were warned in 25 to quit spending money, and all these miscellaneous things kept going. No control on spending. I mean, Stanley Tumblers, $222. I don't want to take the brunt of we're canceling events because council is talking to Austin.
We're not over budget on any of those other line items. This one, we're not projected to be over budget on any of those, any of the spending that you just listed. That's within budget that council has already budgeted. And so none of that is actually projected to come in over budget.
But we are
What's over budget is currently the attorney's fees.
we're still in the reserve fund, which was discussed last month, that the 1.7 million is the reserve fund. So we dropped into our reserve fund. That's what I'm trying to say, is we don't have that same protection.
That's always been council's prerogative. So that's where we are on the budget as council directed. We were going to hear from Councilmember Lasher, and then we'll come back to Mayor Pro Tem.
You mentioned how we used to, before we would reach out to you and then you could say if we could talk to Austin or whatever. What would council feel okay reaching out to Charity and see if it is something she could answer without reaching out to Austin? And if not, then we can reach out to Austin to try to bring costs down, or?
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Because there was a lot of efficiency created there were some answers that could just be provided, or they could be compiled, and you would have a meeting already planned with the attorney, and so you would have the attorney would have one period of answering questions rather than 7 periods.
Not to add more to your plate, Charity. Just figured we could maybe save some money.
Mayor Pro Tem?
My question would be, you mentioned about we're not over budget in specific line items. But I think I made a comment to you a couple days ago, simply because it's budgeted doesn't mean that we should spend it. Correct? I mean, we can have a budget, but that doesn't mean that we need to spend it. We should, if we need to allocate those funds in another area, isn't that the goal?
We have the discretion to do that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Councilmember Lasher?
I don't know.
Could we take a vote on that
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Councilmember Debner?
I was going to agree. I think it'd be good to get a voice vote for council direction that we would intend to kind of route our questions through Charity, and that she would compile the legal questions if she isn't able to provide a satisfactory answer.
So we're looking for general agreement with that in terms of staff direction from each of you, and I'll call your name in turn. Or it's not really a motion, it's just staff direction.
Correct.
Yeah. Algeen?
Yes.
Yes. Bailey?
She's dropped off.
Okay. Davis?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up from Davis. Remotely, Debner,
Yes.
Lasher,
Yes.
and Randolph.
Yes.
Okay. So that's good. Yeah, that would help. Councilmember Debner.
And I think I know the answer to this, but I imagine the snacks that we have in the back here today or at the council and community forums, we would pause those because those are non-essential.
I think based off the direction I received tonight, I'll have something more formal in my staff report on the April 20th meeting that will identify exactly what I'm asking to put on hold. And then you guys can give me direction from there.
Okay.
We just heard back from the food trucks for Taco Tuesday, and for the number of people that we serve, we're recommending 2 food trucks at $1,500 each, plus a gratuity. So that's to give you a ballpark of what it would cost to hold Taco Tuesday. And then there would be some amount for music, or we could have music not be live, just so that everybody has a sense of what that would cost if you do cancel it.
What's the gratuity for that? Is that 20%?
It depends. I think it's
What have we
up to
been,
council.
what have we done in the past?
I don't know. I'd have to research that. Maybe 10%. But I'd have to research that. I really
Okay.
don't know.
Okay.
I guess one thing from my perspective is I think the annual picnic, if we're going to have any event, that would be one that we would maybe try to retain. But it would be interesting to know what the cost of our events are and, you know, kind of their attendance as well. So that we would, I mean, how many residents are we serving? And it is, I guess, one question I have with the events.
Another option would be that we put a budgetary freeze for the next 3 months, reevaluate what our attorney fees are going to look like in the next 3 months, because I think that's really where some of the concern is. And then bring it back to council to see where we're coming at and if we can lift the freeze.
I'm in support of that idea. Yeah. A freeze and then reevaluate would be wise. And we'll have the purchasing policy in place at that time. So our spending will be more controlled in theory.
And you'll be providing the, I'm sorry if I'm not using the right words, check register in the monthly meetings, so the public would have access to view that as well.
So the check registers and the monthly financials will be on the regular meeting in the packet in my staff report moving forward per council's request.
Okay. And then we'll bring forth the purchasing policy on the 20th.
Yes.
I have a question. Austin, you mentioned that that you can only speak on your attorney fees, not the magistrate complaints that we have coming up. Do we have any like ballpark of an idea of how much each complaint will cost, or?
No,
Okay.
but we can try to provide that. I think we'll probably know better once we trial by fire and get through a couple.
Okay.
There was another element that you thought we could potentially adjust fee-wise.
Yeah, that's really the first bucket, and that's related to sort of the scope of work product. You know, when we've talked internally, I've said like, wow, you guys have truly rewritten almost every single policy in town within like a 2 to 3 month period.
Right.
So the good news is there's not much left. You've pretty much rewritten all of it, if not like put in new policy that I think we're missing. And so in my view, I think, again, I see those as sort of one and dones, and so those should start tailing off. You've also taken off some really big code projects, and so I think those will start tailing off. And so when you see future issues, like we made this decision on the licensing, we had the conversation of like, do you really want to rip up this whole chapter and make it, you know,
Right.
great for forever, or do you just want to do the little button up? And we decide button up. So it's those kind of
Right.
decisions that sort of staff first makes and then council eventually approves that play into those expenses. So
Right.
potentially looking at more, I don't know, targeted.
Being cognizant of how many large projects we take on that require a lot of
Yeah.
attorney's time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you're rewriting like literally every single policy in town, 50 plus pages of code, I was honestly shocked it wasn't. I thought it was going to be like twice as much
Yeah.
of a bill.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody here is criticizing the billing and, you know, your rates or anything like that. And I want to be clear about that. I'm not, nobody's doing that here at
I
this
appreciate
table.
that.
Because I know it's a difficult conversation, but I do think it's a really important one, and I appreciate you being frank, and I really appreciate Administrator Cantfield coming forward with the heads up early on so that we can get a handle on what needs to happen. Do our council members who are remote have anything further to add? Any thoughts? I'm sorry, you're still muted, Councilmember Davis. I think we still have some problems with our remote participation solutions for the system.
He could call in.
Yeah, you're still muted, Councilmember Davis. We can't hear you at all. And Councilmember Bailey is not with us anymore.
No.
If Councilmember Bailey is not here and Councilmember Debner and I have to recuse ourselves, do we lose our quorum?
You need 4.
We have 4.
He's 4.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm
I have one more thing about the
Councilmember
budget.
Randolph.
Are we going to cancel Taco Tuesday if we wait till the 20th? That's not much notice for residents.
No, it's not.
I think
So
we need to-
that decision needs to be made now.
I agree. And then I wonder if any other council folks, members agree with me that maybe we need to look at RFPs for new IT and lower this. It seems like it's over 65,000, which is a lot of money.
That would be a council direction that I would need to have.
We could bring it, is it something that we should put on the future agenda schedule to, or if we have direction here at the table to bring that back for an RFP, just bring it back? Yeah. In general, are other council members in favor of looking at replacing our IT providers? That's one of the ways that we could potentially lower costs. Councilmember Debner.
There's not a cost, it's just administrative work for the RFP.
It's just me writing the RFP and issuing it.
Okay.
Legal work involved.
I guess one thought, I mean, I do support the idea of, putting out an RFP, but I'm just wondering, considering our future meeting schedule and administrative workload, how it would fit in. And I know tonight we don't have future agenda discussion on the agenda. But I guess maybe this is kind of the time to talk about that.
I mean, if this is what council direction is, then we'll make it happen. If that's what council decides not to do, then we won't.
I think that the quality of the services that we have been offering across the board has increased. We've improved the quality of the services and the quality of the work that we're doing in town across the board in the last 4 years, and but probably 5-7 years. And as you improve that and become more complex, you have more complex needs, and our IT has similarly gotten more sophisticated. So I'd hate to see our IT providers, if we spend less money on IT, it's possible that we also have less high-quality IT, but having it go out to RFP would answer that question probably. Mayor Pro Tem, you look like.
I'm not really clear on what the high-end products that they're providing, because it's not impacting me. I see that I have difficulty getting on or, certain issues, and the amount of time that it took, was it related to us being here? I'm not really seeing how they have elevated the service.
Well, that was something I actually offered to bring a presentation to council from IT on set, wanted to come and speak with you. And when we were doing the future agenda schedule, council said that they prefer to cut that in the interest of efficiency and reducing the workload. So if you would like to have a presentation from onset about their services, I think that might be the first step. That reminds me of that, because that might be the first step so that you just have more familiarity with what services they are providing.
What's the cost for them to come out?
It would be free. Councilmember Lasher, and then we'll go down the row.
I could be wrong, but I do remember, was it that the police was saving something in the cloud now? Is that why it went up? Wasn't it something like that is why it went up?
No,
little
there is
bit,
an
or-
additional level of security, is
Okay.
what it was. That they would not provide their IT support services without this additional level of security.
Okay.
And so they could explain it more specifically. But we did move to the cloud in the last 6 months, and it's been, so that's been one additional thing. But I don't know if there was a cost associated with that from them. There was a cost associated with the actual equipment, but I don't know if it was labor.
Yeah, I'd have to investigate that.
Yeah. Councilmember Debner.
I guess I am in support of an RFP, like going out for RFP, and maybe we can coordinate our current IT provider presentation at the same time we have the RFP options to choose from. Because, I mean, it could be, oh, they have great service and it's a small cost savings. So, you know, we can decide then with all the cards at the table.
Assuming that they respond to the RFP, and are you saying like, put it out to RFP and see if they bid on it and give us a presentation?
Well, I guess if we put it out to RFP, we'd be getting 3 additional, like IT vendors that,
They would have to
minimum
bid on it
3.
as well.
yeah.
It would depend on how many respond.
So I'm thinking if we put it out to RFP, maybe we have someone respond that can offer the same service for a more affordable cost. I mean, that's a good idea anyways. I do think, you know, since if we are entering a budget freeze, it might be wise to add that to every agenda that we have. So we have that opportunity to kind of discuss budget, and we can proactively look at, you know, seeing how we're doing, get reports from staff, ask questions. And then I think that would demonstrate that we're taking this seriously.
That will also be part of your monthly financial statement because that will tell you year to date where you're at with each line item in terms of revenue and expenditures.
Yeah.
Councilmember Randolph?
I just am wondering if we're gonna cancel Taco Tuesday and if this is going out for RFP. So, if IT is going out for RFP.
What would your position be on canceling Taco Tuesday?
I agree with it.
You'd like to cancel it? Councilmember Debner?
I think we can anticipate the cost going up, so it would be smart to cancel.
Councilmember Lasher?
I think it's really sad to cancel because I think that like the community comes out so much for these events, and I think it's like our way to like show how appreciative we are for them. But I do think we need to be fiscally responsible and cancel it.
Mayor Pro Tem Malguin?
Yes, I do feel that we need to, for this year, cancel Taco Tuesday. And I am in support of an RFP. For IT, I would be curious to find out what IT services serve like multiple municipalities. What are the companies that are familiar with municipalities? Because my understanding is Onset, we're the only one. They learn through us.
I'm going to come back to that because I'm trying to get direction about canceling Taco Tuesday. Councilmember Davis, do you agree on that we should cancel Taco Tuesday? And he has an affirmative remote. And Councilmember Bailey is still not with us. Okay. So then we have staff direction to cancel Taco Tuesday. And we will get a flyer out on doors to that effect.
Just a reminder, we can get free copies at the library.
I don't think the library would appreciate a municipality going and making free copies. I don't think that's what the service is intended for.
What's the cost for flyers? I mean,
If we print them in-house,
yeah.
I would have to look at the last bill to let
Okay.
you know.
What was the last, when we got the reminder of the Taco Tuesday? What was that bill?
Save the date flyer, it was like $175 on the
Okay.
that was printed though. That was a printed one. So that was printed out of house.
I'll have to look at our copier lease invoice and see what it was the last time we printed flyers in-house.
I mean, you're not seriously suggesting that we not notify the residents.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I offered an option of using a free service that I'm familiar with, and then you said in-house, and I asked what the cost was. So I wasn't suggesting, of course, we do need to let them know. We can also let them know on the website, correct?
But not everybody sees the website. We need to get the word out.
Yes.
And typically, the way that we do that is we make a flyer and we put it on doors.
But don't we have a list of residents that chose not to be receiving flyers?
Yep, and they don't get the flyers.
And how many are flyers do we print then?
Usually around 250.
And
We could do half pages in-house, and that would be the most affordable way to do it.
beautiful. That's a great suggestion.
I'm in support of that, half pages in-house.
Okay? Is there anything on the message that council would like?
Would you be creating these flyers?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Do you want
when
to
is
give
our
her
next
direction
event?
to that, for
I
that?
mean-
I'm sorry, excuse me. Do we want to give her direction for how
think she
to
could do
present
it.
that?
I think
Okay.
we don't need a micromanager.
Councilmember Randolph.
So are we going to cancel other events
Well, I think we're
in the
gonna.
next 3 months?
I think the idea, go ahead.
So I will
Canfield.
bring back the line items of all the things that we're canceling next meeting in my staff report, and you will provide me direction of what you guys want canceled.
And then we'll do another flyer to the residents.
We'll find preemptive communication strategies that are cost effective.
Okay.
Councilmember Debner.
Perhaps we can talk about this in our communications policy, what do we want to do when we enter a season of a tight budget? Because, I mean, it's going to happen at some point. And it seems like it's happening now, temporarily, hopefully. But I think it would be smart to anticipate, hey, our budget is not what we would like it to be. How do we adjust our communication and our services that we offer?
I was
Councilmember Randolph?
just surprised that flyers went out when there was on here that we might have to do a temporary budget freeze. I was very surprised to see them in the utility bill, in the Gazette, being passed out. I thought it was kind of similar to the goals being put in the Gazette before we had discussed them. I think maybe we need to be more cautious about sending flyers out when there's pending items on the agenda, because I think it frustrates residents.
It's also very important that we not anticipate what council is going to direct us to do and that we communicate well with the residents. Other feedback, thoughts about this? Or do we feel like we have enough direction for staff?
Could we just summarize the direction that council has given?
Thank you.
Ms. Campfield?
So right now, I need to do a half-page flyer to get to the residents, notifying that Taco Tuesday is canceled. I am bringing back all of the line items that council wants me to suggest a freeze on. And then we still haven't solidified, I will be the go-to between the council and Austin. And then I think we just need to solidify the direction of an RFP for IT services.
Should we bring back the rules for changing? Because the rules,
I was just
Probably
looking
need
at
to be
that.
updated.
Yeah, let me review them. I'll review them, then we can talk about it in our post
okay,
meeting.
okay, thank you.
I missed something. What needs to be updated on the rules?
The council rules, if our town administrator is going to be the person who everybody goes to if they want to speak to the attorney, that's an update to our council rules,
Thank you.
possibly. And our town attorney will let us know. Okay? Thank you, everybody. I know that's a difficult conversation, and we appreciate the hard work that went into bringing it to the floor and being aware of it and letting us all know. Thank you to you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. We're on to agenda item number 12, which, as stated at the beginning of the meeting, I will recuse myself from for this agenda item, as well as I believe Councilmember Debner. I'm also just going to go ahead and recuse myself for the remainder of the meeting, since the very next item afterwards is the adjournment. So I'll go ahead and leave the meeting, and our Mayor Pro Tem will carry us through the end of the meeting.
And for clarity, mine was just for the one complaint, so whatever order we do them in, I'll just
Yeah.
step out for that.
Should we should we address the first two and then he
Yes.
could recuse himself?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about these, about complaints before we move on? Or before we get into them? I was just curious when we were gonna like hear from a magistrate. I was assuming I would have heard like that week. And I just really would like to like make it a priority to get it rolling because I'm really excited to get things done. So
Yeah.
we make that a priority.
Yeah, we certainly are. We've reached out to several attorneys, and there's some reluctance so far.
Why is that?
Unsure. Partly potentially because several of them have operated as a hearing officer in the town in a different capacity. There's only like a handful that do this kind of work. But we are continuing to reach out to all of the attorneys who are known to do this kind of work.
And we still don't know, like, will you bring back, like, the price when we have it, so we can know that, or?
Well, I'll have to bring back a contract to the council with whoever decides that they would like to do this, so you will see what the cost will be in the contract.
Great.
Right. All right. Do you guys need to give you a debrief of how to do this again, like I did last time, or are we all kind of settled?
Debrief would be nice.
Yes.
And I also have a question about, is there complaint consolidation that is going to happen, or are they individually looked at?
Yeah, they're probably going to be individually looked at, just like a typical court case would be, unless you have a similar complaint with the exact same facts.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so per the council rules, council's role in this preliminary proceeding is fairly narrow. The determination council needs to make at this stage tonight with each complaint is whether the complaint is frivolous. And really the definition of frivolous is two things within the rules. The first doesn't apply. It's that a complaint is substantially similar to a complaint previously submitted and determined. That doesn't apply. So the second prong is really what council is going to be determining tonight, and that's whether the allegations in the complaint, even if found to be true, do not amount to a violation of the rules, code, or charter. Does that make sense? All right. So that's what council needs to do for each one of these complaints. So do we just want to take them in the order to which they appear in the agenda? Okay.
May I ask a question? Last time we did that, there was some confusion on how we vote.
Yes.
Oh,
So could we have clarity on,
technically up to you as the chair. Perhaps the simplest way. Really, again, the decision is that you're making is whether to move the complaint forward. And to be able to move the complaint forward, you're making the determination that it's not frivolous based off the definition I just gave. So perhaps the simplest way, if you understand that context, is just to say, yes, I want to move it forward, or no, I don't. Does that
Okay.
work with you?
Yes.
Okay.
So if I want to move a complaint forward, I just say yes.
Right. And again, that determination, you're saying yes if you have determined that it is not frivolous, meaning that the complaint, based off the allegations within it, could be a violation of the rules, charter, or code. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Councilmember Davis, is that? Yep, okay. So we can just start with the first one from John Hallinan. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. And we can just go down the line if that works for you.
yes? So Councilmember Randolph,
Yes.
yes? Okay.
Yes.
Councilmember Debner,
Yes.
Councilmember Loescher,
No.
Councilmember Davis?
I have a message from Kathleen. I don't know if it can go on the record, but she gave her answer to
Okay.
her
Yep.
decision. Yes.
Okay. And yes.
So move on to the second one, which the complainant in this case is Jeff Kitty.
Okay. Councilmember Randolph, please?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Debner?
Yes.
Councilmember Loescher?
No.
Councilmember Davis?
Yes,
Yes.
for Councilmember Bailey, just to have it on record.
Councilmember Bailey, yes, and yes.
And then, yeah.
I'll leave the floor.
And Councilmember Debner, you're going to recuse yourself?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Randolph?
Yes.
Councilmember Loescher?
No.
Councilmember Davis?
Councilmember Bailey said yes.
Yes.
I think that's the last one.
Yes, it is the last.
So we have no further business, so you may adjourn.
Okay, so we have no further business. I call the meeting to adjournment at 9:12 PM.
Perfect.